Okay, and we're live, I think. Let me check. Let me check if we're live. Yes. Upcoming. Live, yes. Okay, so we are live with another stream surrounding the situation about Gonzalo Lira and the ongoing geopolitical situation. Now, Scott Ritter, as probably a lot of you may know him, Scott Ritter and Gonzalo Lira had a fallout like a year ago, since the first time Gonzalo Lira got arrested. Scott Ritter claimed that Gonzalo Lira is probably dead. That was when they arrested them for when they arrested him for a first time a year ago, and they since then they had a fallout between each other. Before that, they had a couple of streams together, a couple of appearances, roundtables, whatnot, and after that, Scott Ritter claimed that Gonzalo Lira was actually a SBU agent plant, some kind of a hybrid warfare propaganda project for the Ukrainians, and it's interesting point of view. I respect both of them. I respect Gonzalo Lira and Scott Ritter. So Ritter claimed that Gonzalo. Let's make sure if the live chat is the live chat is enabled. So anyway, they had a falling out between each other. Scott Ritter claiming that Gonzalo Lira is a plant, SBO plant agent. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let him alive out of the prison, and it's interesting to watch his perspective about Gonzalo. Now, I'm not sure what to think really, and the point of this is not to get into camps, pro Gonzalo Lira camp, pro Scott Ritter camp. The purpose of why I'm doing this is just I'm just looking for the truth. That's it. That's what I'm trying to do. Just to look for the truth and see where the evidence might lead us. I'm not taking any sides, any camps. I'm just looking for the objective truth. That's it. With that said, I think it's better to listen to Scott Ritter, what he has to say about Gonzalo Lira and his arguments in support of the claims that Gonzalo Lira is a SBU agent and he's a fraud. So I think it's nice to hear him out, hear some of his arguments. I think they're, I don't know, interesting to say the least.
Then as well, that's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm alone today, handling the comments and camera shots and so forth, so please bear with me on that. Let's get straight to the questions from our beloved audience. Our first question is a voicemail message from somebody named Patrick asking about one of your favorite people.
Hey, Scott, how's it going? I just had a quick question for you. I was just on Twitter, and I know you hate being asked about Gonzalo Lira, but after these tweets, today's the 31st of July, after these tweets that he's been posting recently, I'm sure by the time, if you hear this, if you do, you'll know what I'm talking about. I just want to know your opinion on it. It's pretty crazy to read, but anyway, thanks.
Do you have any idea what you might be talking about?
I do actually have a lot of ideas, because unlike what my normal restraint when it comes to Mr. Lira, those tweets set me off. So I've been engaged in a little bit of Twitter play, or Xeet play, X play. Who knows what we call it nowadays? But what I
Funny
would,
you should say that, Scott. I have your cheeky tweets right here. It seems that you
unlike
don't
what I
really
normally,
buy
my normal restraint when it
Gonzalo
comes.
Lira has been saying. By the way, can you answer this in 3 minutes, or do you need a little? Do we need it to issue a waiver for this?
I think, Jeff, we need to issue a waiver. I need the court needs to give me a little bit more time on this one, or else you'll just be beating me, and then I won't be able to answer the question properly, et cetera. So,
Well, Scott, it's a little bit unorthodox, but okay.
well,
Добър вечер, Стоян Озунов. Добре дошъл в канала. Следа ситуацията сега с Гонзало Лира и Скот Ритър. Малко за англоязичната аудитория, който му е интересно да гледа и така.
Well, why don't you give folks a little summary of what his tweet thread was about, and also the video he posted yesterday?
Well, I think we even have to go back further than that. No, I mean, this is,
you go from refusing to talk about it all to wanting to devote the entire show to Gonzalo. All right, go ahead.
If I'm going to talk about this, Jeff, it has to be done right, because there will be haters, there will be people sniping, there will be people jumping in who don't know the background. And
well, since one YouTube commenter said you're Batman and I'm merely Robin, I know better than to challenge Batman for supremacy. So as you wish, go ahead.
Well, now I feel guilty.
No, it wasn't intended. It wasn't intended as such. Go ahead.
I'll just keep it brief. Gonzalo Lira, I think everybody knows, is a former lifestyle coach who sometime at the end of 2021, early 2022, started tweeting critically of the Ukrainian government. I did a Twitter Spaces with him prior to the war. He had a large, I don't know if I'm still visible or not.
Are you having an earthquake in Albany?
My computer just decided to blank out on me, so I don't know if you can see me or not.
No, we can see it was shaking though.
Well, it's shaking because I'm maniacally hitting the bar, trying to get my image back up because
it's okay. We can see you.
Okay, well then I'll just operate with a blank screen.
All right.
Anyways, I did the Twitter Spaces. He asked good questions. He has a very large audience. But this was something that was facilitated by a member of the Duran crew, and both Alex and myself were concerned that Gonzalo was speaking out so harshly against the Ukrainian government while living in Kharkov, and our concern was magnified once the war started, and he continued to speak out. I did a YouTube appearance, and we're talking lengthy appearances. My time in the intelligence business is dated somewhat, but we knew how to track IP numbers and things of that nature. And I don't care how good Gonzalo Lira thinks he is. He is a known name at a known address. The Ukrainians had to know what he was doing, and yet they let him continue doing it. And I found that to be suspicious and or foolhardy. One of his tweets, he pinned, he listed a series of names, and he said, if I'm ever missing for more than 12 hours, assume that I've suffered the same fate. And some of the people, all those people have been arrested, tortured by the Ukrainian government for the crime of speaking out. Some of them have been killed.
All right, Scott is freezing. He is having computer and internet troubles, so I don't know if you can hear me.
Well, I don't know where I got cut off in my in my explanation.
All right. Well, you were. I don't think. I can't remember exactly where you were either.
No,
But
the bottom
you were
line is,
saying that Gonzalo Lira had said if he disappears for a certain amount of time,
if he
to
disappears
assume-
for 12 hours, we should treat him as having suffered a similar fate to the people whose names he listed on the tweet. In April, he disappeared for 5 days, and I was concerned. There was no explanation. Suddenly on Twitter, people started posting things that were linked to the Kraken unit, which is an intelligence unit noted for its right-wing political leanings and its murderous approach towards people. The Boatswain is a notorious character who slaughtered people in Bucha, and he's claiming that his buddy in Kraken had arrested and was torturing Gonzalo. And so nobody was speaking out. And so I wrote an article, and I sent some tweets, and then I wrote an article trying to draw attention to this. And the article, I said, if the reports of Gonzalo Lira's death are true, then the silence of the Western media and journalists is deafening. And I thought I was doing Gonzalo a favor, trying to draw attention to this, trying to see if he was alive. Maybe there could be intervention to bring him back and all this. Well, he was alive. He was released shortly thereafter, and he took umbrage, extreme umbrage, I should say, at what I did. He accused me of, saying he had been murdered, that he was dead, and I'm like, dude, I didn't say that. You said that. You said if you're 12 hours gone, boom. Anyways, he started viciously attacking me, and at that point in time, as you know, I said I just really don't want to have anything more to do with this guy. I don't trust him at all. First of all, he was arrested by the SBU ostensibly because of his online activity. He's now released by the SBU, and he's being given access to his computers and his phones to continue the exact same online activity that got him arrested to begin with. That to me means he's a controlled asset of the SBU. The SBU released him and is allowing him to do this. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why would the SBU allow him to do this? Because people are like, well, he's critical. He's critical of the Ukrainians. Well, first of all, Gonzalo has no original content, especially after his arrest. Gonzalo's job was to bring people in and have a conversation and listen to people and draw out conversations and to get followerships and get people to chime in. He did so on social media platforms that have subscriber lists. Remember, everything about him is now controlled by the SBU. So anybody who is participating, subscribing, otherwise being involved in Gonzalo Lira's online activities, he's literally, the SBU is sucking in this data. So
all right, but slow down, Steph. Not everybody knows what we're talking about. So why don't you just give a little summary of what's going on right now in the past couple of days as far as his Twitter?
Well, it doesn't make any sense unless you know the background, Jeff.
Oh, all right, but
I do this for a living. Okay, I can't get to X unless I go through ABC.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I thought you were already in the. I thought you were already in the present. You're still not to the present. My mistake.
No. I'm talking about the first time he's released.
Okay.
And then he continues to do this for some time, and then suddenly he's arrested again. This is a dramatic arrest. This is done on TV. The film is out there. They film him being arrested, and he's shuttled off, and he goes dark for, I think, 9 weeks. On July 6th, he's released. He's released quietly, but it's known. I received several communications from people who said Gonzalo's out, and they also said don't trust him. He's working for the SBU. He still has access. He's reaching out to talk to people. He's trying to get people to come in and talk to him. And they said don't do it. I said don't worry, I don't talk to him anyways. And suddenly he sends out this 25-part dramatic tweet. He's at the border with Hungary, and he's laying out his whole case, all the documents, the whole thing, laying out his case, how he's been arrested, tortured, embezzled, stolen, beaten, had to turn in his passports, wear an electronic monitor. And then he says, oh, by the way, I've taken off my electronic monitor. and he's ridden a motorcycle all the way to the Hungarian border. And now he's tweeting from the Hungarian border that he's going to cross into Hungary. And his passports have been returned to him. But he's going on trial in 2 days, and he's going to be found guilty, he says, and spend the rest of his life in prison. And it just stinks to high heaven. I mean, everything about this smells. And so I thought, since Gonzalo has committed to this story, that I would follow up. What's not known is that Gonzalo's reached out to me since our falling out, and he's asked me to retract my claims that he's an SBU asset. Why are you saying this about me? Why are you slandering me? Are you still going to stick to your story? And I wrote back, I said, absolutely, you're an SBU asset, straight up. And he is. There's no doubt in my mind. And so now we have a situation where Gonzalo has he claims to have crossed the border. We'll see what happens. But I would just recommend that anybody who has anything to do with this guy understand that this isn't happening because Gonzalo Lira is a superstar who should have been in the real life Great Escape. That's not what's happening. He has been. This is a setup. This is all about a setup. I think that Gonzalo Lira's brand was languishing. He wasn't getting I guess the followership, new follows that the SBU wanted. And I think the idea was to rebrand him, send him across the border, let him set up in Europe, and begin the process of collecting information about the anti-Ukrainian movement around the world. Information that the SBU uses, by the way. I mean, for instance, I'm on a hit list. I'm also on a list put out by the Center for Countering Disinformation. And I think anybody who deals with Gonzalo Lira is going to find that they're going to be on similar lists, because this is not a man who's acting on his own. He is a straight up SBU asset.
All right. Well, the last I saw, he didn't claim that he crossed the border yet. He said he's trying to. And if we don't hear from him within whatever X amount of hours, to assume the worst. So it's been about 20 hours and we haven't heard from him. Let's take a look at a little bit of the video he made. He was saying that he was tortured while in prison.
Now, those were some harsh accusations from Scott Ritter to Gonzalo Lira, flat out calling him SBU agent, and that he's promoting some kind of a honeypot scheme for dissidents, for anti-Ukrainians, for the SBU, some kind of intelligence gathering plan for the Ukrainian secret services to see, to basically infiltrate and gather intelligence on the anti-Ukrainian, the so-called anti-Ukrainian sentiments around the world, in order for I don't know, to know how to better counteract them. Now it's possible. Have in mind, it's possible. We have to be open-minded. We have to explore all kinds of ideas. We are not in Kansas anymore, guys. This is serious stuff. I definitely wouldn't cross that out of the list. Everything is possible, but I gotta say that if Gonzalo Lira is a SBU plant, is some kind of Ukrainian CIA project, I mean, I gotta give props to Gonzalo for being like one of the best actors. I mean, this guy deserves. This guy's, if he's a fraud, if he's a charlatan, Gonzalo Lira has to be one of the best actors on the earth. I mean, he puts the whole of Hollywood to shame with his acting skills, if that's the case. Now, there isn't any update on his Twitter account. There isn't any news since last night, so his situation is still unknown. We have no idea what's going on with him. whether he made it, if he got arrested, or whether this whole thing is some kind of a Ukrainian intelligence operation. I don't know. I'm just, as I said, I'm just looking for the truth. Whatever the facts and evidence leads us. I mean, that's it for me. I'm not in a cult. I'm not some kind of a fanboy that is gonna defend blindly whatever side. If Gonzalo Lira turns out to be a fraud or some kind of a propaganda intelligence project, so be it. If Scott Ritter turns out to be full of shit, so be it. I mean, I don't have exactly a stake at this fight, so it doesn't matter really for me. I'm just looking for the truth. Now, with that said, again, if Gonzalo Lira is a SBU plant, he has to be like the best actor in the world, the best deceiver, because I think he really sounds genuine. He really sounds honest, at least to me, but I don't know. In this day and age, you cannot just trust. You cannot trust anything, I guess, anymore. So yeah, that's. Здравей, MT. Здрасти. Не знам на български или на английски ли да говоря. В принцип идеята на тия лайв стримове е да ги направя малко по-така англоязични за международната публика, защото гледам, че има и хора от чужбина и да са по-достъпни за тях и те да разбират за какво става въпрос, пък и да се разраства така и малко канала извън границите на България. Но сигурен съм, че знаете английски, особено английски с български акцент, така че нали все пак сме атлантици и натовци, така че сигурен съм, че няма да имате проблеми да разбирате какво казвам. Да, и това е принцип, това ми е идеята на канала, на тия лайв стримове. Та не знам за Гонзало Лира, какво да мисля точно. Уважавам ги и двамата, и Скот Ритър и Гонзало. Обаче ако наистина се окаже някаква разузнавателна операция на украинските служби, това трябва да е бахти номера. И Гонзало Лира трябва да е гатия актьора. Трябва да е просто велик актьор. Да заслужава Оскар. Много добър. Трябва да е. Защото ми звучи убедително. Поне на мен, не знам. И така. So, yeah guys, we have no news about Gonzalo. For now, I don't know, we don't know what's his fate. And yeah, that's it. I just wanted to show Scott Ritter's view on that and just see what people think about it. I'm not sure. I don't know what to think really. Duran's the Duran made a video about Gonzalo, and I'm gonna watch it now to see what these guys have to say. Alex and Alexander from the Duran. Huge respect to those guys. So let's hear them out. What they can add to the Gonzalo Lira case and watch them together.
What his situation is currently at this moment and what his plans are as far as leaving Ukraine and making it through the border, across the border to Hungary, where in his video he said he is going to apply for asylum. And that's where we are. He talked a lot about his treatment in Ukraine, torture, extortion. Talked a bit about the U.S. State Department and how they helped, or better way to put it is their lack of help. He talked about how the Chilean foreign ministry did help, and what do you think of everything that's going on? What should take place next? We call on everybody, especially I guess in Hungary, to if you have any type of support that you can provide to him, or any types of connections that you may have with the foreign ministry or other government agencies, I think that would be very, very helpful for Gonzalo. Anyway, Alexander, your thoughts on the videos
Absolutely, that is the first
that dropped yesterday.
Yes, I mean, that is the first thing to say. I mean, the most important thing at the moment is to get Gonzalo in a safe situation, to ensure that he is not returned to Ukraine. He absolutely correctly says that if he escapes to other countries in the European Union, there is a serious risk, given the political ties, that they will send him back to Ukraine, because, he will have jumped bail and he will be pursued by the Ukrainian authorities and the EU authorities, and the authorities in most EU states basically complied to an extraordinary degree with Ukrainian requests on almost every conceivable issue. So he is in very, very serious danger. He's in serious danger in Ukraine, obviously, and he will remain in danger if he gets to the European Union, unless people act to help him. Now, I want to say a few things. He gave a very interesting account about his situation. The first point that he made, it's a point we've made already, which is that he has been arrested, detained, charged for what are pure opinion crimes. He has posted certain videos on YouTube. That's it. That's all he has done. He has not committed any crimes against persons. He has not committed any crimes against property. These offences of which he is accused should not be offences. He is not a Ukrainian citizen. He is a foreign citizen, a foreign journalist, if you like, operating in Ukraine. If the Ukrainians didn't like what he was doing, well, they always had the remedy, if you want to call it a remedy, of expelling him from their country. What they did instead was that they arrested him. They put him through a legal process. They came up with these extraordinary legal charges, which, to my mind, should not be legal charges in any conceivable shape or form. A country which operates in this kind of way and prosecutes people for these sort of things is already losing its right to be called a democracy. That's the first thing to say. And the second thing that he says is that he was detained in prison, that he was beaten there by prisoners who were instigated to do this. That's his account, which I have no reason to doubt, by the authorities. He mentions that he has a pre-existing heart condition. He mentions that if he is sent to the labor camp, where he is threatened with a prison sentence if he is tried in Ukraine, he is unlikely to survive that prison sentence. So all the facts there, put them together, a clearly political crime, alleged political crime, which is exercising what is universally considered the right of free speech, one protected by Article 10 of the European Convention of Human Rights. So a clear political crime, a deeply flawed legal process, so due process is not being followed in any logical way, and a real risk to his life, combined with acts of violence against him. Now, to my mind, all of this taken together makes it absolutely the case that he's entitled to political asylum. I have dealt with asylum cases. I know of what I speak. So he's entitled to political asylum. When he arrives in whichever European country he arrives in, hopefully in Hungary, I think the authorities there should grant him political asylum. If he finds himself in another European country, he should be granted political asylum. There will be pressure, perhaps from some people in the European Union, to return him to Ukraine in the event that that happens. The European authorities and the American authorities, who have immense influence on this matter, should be told by people in no uncertain terms that this is an entirely justified case of asylum, and Gonzalo should under no circumstances be returned to Ukraine. If he is unable to leave Ukraine, if his whereabouts are detected, if he's rearrested, then again, it becomes even more important that the European authorities, that the American authorities press for his immediate release on what is clearly a political charge, and one in which he has already been violently abused and is at risk of his life. And people need to organise, to write to their MPs, to contact the various officials in the European Union, pointing out that those are his legal rights, those are his human rights, that they are being violated, and that the European Union, the United States, is under a duty to protect them, and in the case of the United States, to provide personal protection to him as an American citizen. So in some ways, it's good to see him again. It's alarming that he is on the run. I hope that he is already in Hungary and therefore, to some extent, safe. But in some respects, his situation, it turns out, is even more dangerous than we had feared it might be when we made our comments about him before.
Okay, can you talk a bit about Hungary and what options Hungary may have outside of asylum, granting him asylum? Because
So maybe not everything is a conspiracy. Maybe he's not a SBU agent as Scott Ritter claims. And maybe Scott Ritter is just getting a little bit too conspiratorial and too paranoid. Maybe that could be the case as well. Not everything is a conspiracy. And in the case with Gonzalo Lira can be just a genuine case of political persecution. Yeah, so let's hear more of the Duran guys.
they will be under a lot of pressure from
Yes.
I imagine, from the Zelensky regime, and pressure from the Zelensky regime will mean pressure from the European Union and possibly the State Department. And I want to talk a bit about perhaps an alternate scenario that Gonzalo hinted at during his videos. But first, talk about Hungary and,
Yes.
and what they might do. Maybe they grant them. I mean, is it possible for someone to get asylum or to be granted safe passage to, say, Serbia, a country that's not in the European Union, where Gonzalo, I imagine, he would be protected by the Serb people and the Serbian
Yes.
government? And just a thought. What do you think?
Yes, that is a distinct possibility, and that is a real possibility, and Hungary could do that. In my opinion, there is no doubt whatsoever that they should grant him asylum. All of the boxes that you look at when you consider asylum claims, all of those boxes can be ticked here. As I said, a prosecution on a political charge, one concerning a human right, the right to exercise free speech. Second, violent abuse against a prisoner, tantamount to torture, if it has been supported by or instigated by the authorities, as it seems likely to be the case. And thirdly, a real risk, a very great potential risk to life. So I think Hungary should have no hesitation in granting him asylum. But if it is politically difficult for them to do that, then they do have the secondary option of arranging for his transit to a safer country. Now, Serbia is one possibility. Now, there is another possibility, which I think we might want to consider, which is that Gonzalo is, of course, a citizen of the United States. He could be sent back to the United States. The United States does not, it is not legal for the United States to extradite its citizens. And I have no doubt whatsoever that in the event that he were to return to the United States, where he is a citizen, he would find that there were people there, including within the legal community, who would take action to protect him. So those are the options that Hungary has. But let me repeat again, the best option, before they make a decision about where he should go, would be to immediately grant him at least provisional asylum, because on all the facts that he has given, he is entitled to it.
Okay, so Gonzalo, to wrap up the video, Gonzalo talked about how perhaps the Zelensky regime, by returning, I believe he said they returned some of his documents to him, that perhaps this was a way for Zelensky, or perhaps the U.S. State Department to allow Gonzalo to cross over to a European Union country. That's one possibility that he was talking about in his video. What do you think of something like that?
Well, it's not the first time that's happened. Before we leave this topic, there is something I wanted to say, and that is a case that's attracted a lot of attention internationally, and which has some similarities, and which perhaps clarifies some of the legal issues that I've talked about, and that is the Magnitsky case. Now, the Magnitsky, if you remember, was an individual who got involved in a very complex case in Russia. The Russian authorities claim it was criminal fraud. The US authorities take a different view. But Magnitsky was held in prison in Russia, a pretrial detention prison, like the same kind of prison that Gonzalo has been held in. And Magnitsky either did not receive appropriate medical treatment there for a pre-existing condition, or alternatively, if you believe what Magnitsky's supporters in the West say, he was actually violently beaten whilst in that prison, and he died. And for whichever reason it was, and he died, and he became a major cause célèbre. There was a great deal said about him in the West, continues to be said about him. Magnitsky Acts have been passed about him. It's been repeatedly spoken of as an example of the cruelty of the Russian authorities and of their inhumane practices and of their violations of human rights. Well, it seems to me that Gonzalo is facing the identical situation in Ukraine to the one that Magnitsky is alleged to have faced in Russia, and which allegedly led to his death. Now, people who support the sanctions against Russia over the Magnitsky Act, it seems to me, if they're going to be consistent, they should support any grant of asylum to Gonzalo, and they should support all measures taken to ensure that Gonzalo is brought back to a place of safety. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Now, coming back to your point, which can you quickly remind me of, because I wanted to make that point about Magnitsky, but there was something else that you asked me.
No, Gonzalo mentioned in his video how perhaps there may have been
Oh yes,
a deliberate
a deliberate attempt to stage
deliberately not giving. For instance, I think he even mentioned his ankle bracelet. They didn't put the tracking device on him. They returned his passports.
Yes.
I think he mentioned they returned either one or both of his passports. I don't remember
Yes.
completely what he said, but he hinted at the fact that maybe they were giving him the opportunity to leave, and perhaps this is just a long shot view of mine, I guess, is perhaps the State Department and the Zelensky regime said, let him go to Europe and let them deal with him.
Well, indeed,
Maybe
absolutely, and
that could be something that's going on.
and that is an entirely plausible theory. That might be exactly what's going on. Now, if I can say so, that is also deplorable in a different way, not perhaps in quite such a terrible way as putting him at risk, but it's still pretty sinister because instead of taking the simple and straightforward position of expelling Gonzalo from Ukraine, which, let me reiterate again, the Ukrainian authorities have a right and a power to do. They're going through an entire charade. They've arrested him, they've held him in custody, they've had him beaten there, they've leveled these extraordinary charges against him, they've threatened him with a prison sentence, which, because of his pre-existing medical condition, might threaten his life. So if this is indeed what is happening, it is a ludicrous, a grotesque charade, and is disturbing in itself. Now, having said that, that's still a better outcome than, if than simply arresting him and sending him to prison in the way that they do. If they want to, arrange his escape in that kind of way. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I once actually I actually had once dealings with a Ugandan man who found himself in the Soviet Union and was again under some pressure there. And the Soviet authorities actually arranged his escape to the West. They actually arranged it for him to get him out of the Soviet Union and to put him in a place of safety. But having said that, it's not what should happen. It does happen. It's better than the risk of sending him to prison. But can we really trust this? That's the trouble, because when people play these kind of games, it's very uncertain what they're really about. And of course, remember, if he does go to Europe, and even if the Ukrainian authorities have looked the other way and have allowed him to go there, and he finds himself in, say, Germany or wherever, there's always the risk still that the Ukrainian authorities might go to Interpol, they might issue an international arrest warrant, they might try to get him extradited back to Ukraine. That danger would still be there if, for example, they were to decide to change their minds. So it doesn't alter the need, firstly, to get him asylum if he finds his way into Hungary, and secondly, to support him in getting asylum if he finds his way to Hungary, and secondly, to get him to a place of safety, be it Serbia or perhaps a little more plausibly the United States.
Okay. Any other thoughts that you may have before we wrap up this video?
Well, I have to say this is an incredibly disturbing picture, and there's one other thing which we haven't touched on, which is disturbing, which is that he did have some contacts with the US Embassy, and I was worried that the US authorities weren't taking any interest in his case. But so it's good to know that they were at least in contact with him. But it's clear to me from Gonzalo's account that he feels, at least, that in contrast to the Chileans who were moving heaven and earth to get him out and to help him, the American authorities were just going through the motions. They were just meeting with him and they were doing nothing practically to assist him. Let me repeat again what we said many times, what you said, what I've said. All it takes is a telephone call from the State Department and Gonzalo would have been on a plane to New York immediately, that same day. It's clear that call was never made, and the whole interactions between the US authorities and Gonzalo and the Ukrainian authorities fill one with concern, given that this is, as I said again, a political case, a freedom of speech case. The United States is supposed to take freedom of speech seriously, that it is a case of violent abuse against a prisoner, that it is a case of that prisoner facing potential threat to his life, with that prisoner also being an American citizen. Now, Gonzalo did say something else. I don't know what the basis of his information is, whether he has any reason to think this, but he also said that he has a particular enemy in the State Department. He mentioned the name Victoria Nuland. If it is indeed the case that Victoria Nuland has any role to play in this matter, well, I think, frankly, that is unacceptable. And I think she should be called out for it. And perhaps she can explain her position.
Yeah, so the Duran guys raise very good point, point that Gonzalo Lira himself made, that probably the Kiev regime is just basically trying to get rid of Gonzalo Lira, since he's kind of a hot potato topic. He's a hot potato for them right now, and their hands are pretty much tied. In one hand, if something happens to him, if they kill him, if he dies in some Ukrainian prison, it's gonna be a PR disaster for the Kiev regime, especially in such a crucial time for them, and it's gonna play a huge role. It's gonna play a huge role in turning people's favor about Ukraine against them. They're gonna see a lot of withdrawal, from a lot of popular withdrawal from the people if they find out that American dissident blogger was killed, murdered in Ukraine by the Kiev regime. It's gonna be a PR disaster. So maybe the Kiev regime realizes that, and they're just trying to let him escape, just basically letting him go a few days before his trial, where they told him that he's gonna be accused, he was gonna be found guilty 100%, and that's basically their warning to just their warning to Gonzalo to just make a run for it, get out of Ukraine, and that way the Kiev regime is gonna have a plausible deniability. He's gonna that they can say, oh, we tried to trial this Russian propagandist Gonzalo Lira, but he escaped. Unfortunately, we couldn't catch him. Maybe they are playing that kind of a game, because if he dies in Ukraine, he's a high-profile figure at this point. He has millions of people saw his tweets. Almost 6 million people saw him. If you can rely on the Twitter metrics, nearly 6 million people saw his tweets, and hundreds of thousands saw his videos. So it's gonna look bad for the Kiev regime if he dies in Ukraine. And maybe that's the game that they're playing to kind of save face in front of the world, in front of the Ukrainians that want to punish him. They can just shrug it off and say, well, he got away. We were about to sentence him, and he just slipped. He got away. Sorry, oopsie. Maybe that's the game that they're playing. I don't know. It's just throwing it out there as a possibility. And yeah. Hi, Konstantin. Hi. So yeah, maybe that's what's happening. They're unofficially allowing for Gonzalo Lira to escape and wipe their hands clean. So yeah, guys, that's I think that's about this stream. I'm gonna close it off. Thanks for those that are watching, that came. if there are any further updates about Gonzalo Lira, I'm gonna make another live streams updating and covering the whole Gonzalo Lira situation and so on. So yeah, thanks for coming, thanks for watching, listening, and see you soon. Bye for now.